Welcome to a quick bevy with Swans fans, where each week Swans fans have 45 seconds to answer some burning bloods and footy-related questions over a quick bevy or two. Today we have a very special guest. Chris, over to you for the introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Noddy. I'm very happy to introduce a very special guest for us. 197 games of some of the smoothest and quickest movement the Swans have ever witnessed. A key player in our drought-breaking 2005 Premiership team. One of the best rebounding halfbacks we have ever seen in the red and white, and the only person to have ever won an AFL flag, as well as an All-Ireland championship. The terror from Kerry, the smooth mover hailing from the Blackburn Rovers, our forever number 17, the one and only Ty Kennelly. Welcome aboard.
Oh, what an introduction.
Thanks for having
me. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on tonight, Ty. We're stoked to have you. Thanks, mate. All right. Well, on behalf of all the Swans fans, please let us ask a few Tyke-specific questions before we get into the regular episode. So we'll just shoot you a few spitfire questions, and feel free to take as long as you need to answer. So first up, Wendy Granger on Instagram wants to know, what have you been up to since retiring from AFL?
Oof. Yeah, it's been a long time ago now. When I first retired in 2012, obviously disappointing year for myself. I could have hung on for another 9 months, but I couldn't face a pre-season, even though Horse was trying to convince me to play on. I ended up going to the AFL and saying I wanted to recruit some players from Ireland, US, and New Zealand. So I created a system of recruiting, a scouting system in Ireland and US, using people on the ground to draft players into the AFL. And
awesome.
With a lot of success, and we got a couple of boys still obviously running around now in Colin O'Riordan and of course Barry O'Connor. But Big Mason Cox was another one from the US that I was able to get my hands on and help Collingwood, whether you want to say help or not. But and it was something I was very excited about. I also ended up dabbling into some coaching straight after footy, as far as coaching New South Wales 16s, 18s, and then I obviously came back into the footy club and coached the reserves, lost the grand final, and then the last 3 years was assistant coach of the club, and everything with COVID happened, and I was one of the ones as coaches to miss out, I suppose, with the cut and obviously in the salary the football department spend, and I've had a good time to reassess where I'm at as a forwarder, and as a person, and I've stepped into education. Working now currently at Winona, which is a girls' school in North Sydney, and sports coordinator there, which is something I'm really enjoying.
Wow,
fantastic! Really? Wow, that's almost as glorious as your playing career, I think, if not more. There. So, okay, so just to say, there's a lot to unpack there.
My wife would kill me if I don't say this. I got married and I had 3 kids.
Oh, okay, yes. Congratulations, yes.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier. I've just had a newborn, and so yes, definitely. Let's put that at the front and say pinnacle of your life and all the other stuff.
Comfortable now. Can we start again?
Yeah, stop, rewind. Okay, so we got to thank you for Colin O'Riordan and Barry O'Connor first and foremost, and I guess on behalf of the Collingwood fans, that's a big thank you, because Mason Cox, basically single-handedly stopped the Tigers from winning their fourth flag of 4 years. So well played. I was wondering if he was going to come to the Swans for a moment there as a bit of ruck cover, but that didn't come to play. But anyway, all right, over to you, Chriso, for the next one.
Yeah, it was on the same vein. So Brett from Manly asks, do you keep an eye on the Gaelic football talent and the hurling even for that matter? And if so, who are some of the boys that we should be paying attention to, or even girls now with the AFLW coming in? Who should we be keeping an eye on the Irish talent?
Yeah, it's a great question. Certainly with the women's competition, there was a lot more females from Gaelic football that coming across. There was 23 last year that had played in the AFLW, and that's only going to continue to grow. I think the comparisons between the Gaelic football, that the Gaelic football ladies comp has been going for so long, and the AFLW, the standard is not quite as the difference between the Gaelic football and the AFL. So the AFLW standard compared to the GA girls ladies, sorry, I think they're actually at a higher level, so they can come in and transition a lot quicker than the boys coming from Gaelic football to the AFL system, where the professional game has been around a lot longer. And that's not saying anything against the AFLW, but it's just a matter of fact that, you know, that the men's competition has been running for a lot longer, and hence they just got a lot of better talent at a younger age.
Just the state of the game. Yeah.
That's And no, the work that's been done has been incredible, and it does help the girls coming across from Ireland, obviously, to actually make the transition, you know. But traditionally back in Ireland, there's parts of Ireland where the hurling there's parts of Ireland is very strong, and there's parts of Ireland where the Gaelic football is very strong. But every year there's an under 18, well, it's actually changed, under 17 and under 20 competition, and that's where the majority of the players that are identified or are spotted come from. A couple of prerequisites are that if you're playing under 17 competition, if you're 15, well, straight away you notice, well, this kid's got something and can handle it for a couple of years, and it's almost like our scouts and recruiters go, okay, let's have a look at these kids. And you know, the first thing I used to say, and I'm not involved in it anymore, and I've passed the buck a small bit to an ex-Collingwood guy, Marty Clark, who actually came out and played with the Swans as well, but I still have a bit of a say in what's going on. But the biggest thing, and what I'd say to the parents and to the boys, it's hard, you know, and it's highly unlikely that you're going to make it, because it's tough, and by saying that you want to make it, this is the reality of it. It's hard and difficult, and it's the other side of the world, and you know, there's lots of challenges with it. But by saying that, generally you get the kid that goes, well, I'll show you, and they're the ones that you look at and go, right, here we go, this is the one we've got, and that kind of inspires them small bit to kind of show you, well, I'll show you, Kennelly, who you and whatnot, you know, and you get that a bit from the recruiting side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so like it's not only just the talent, it's also that competitive spirit to
it's huge
through it, right?
Your personality is a huge thing by coming off from the other side of the world. I think, you know, if you're inclusive, it's bloody hard to come over the other side of the world and try and get yourself out there, play a game you know nothing about. You have to be comfortable in your skin. You got to be really strong character, and you got to be willing to put yourself out there, because you got to remember, a lot of these boys and girls have got careers that are set. They're off and they're playing senior footy and they're away, and they've no reason to leave because they're playing the biggest sport in Ireland and they're in the top team. So why would they want to leave? So they've got to have a real strong temperament to go, you know what, I'm going to give this a crack, and they want to actually challenge it. And the character side of it is just as important as their talent.
I'd go as far to say that the guys, the Irish guys and ladies in the future that come over are probably, they have more of what it takes to do what you said. Like if you compare about, let's say the young Victorian boys that get drafted with the northern states or the western teams, and there's always that come home factor. Like they can't even deal with living in the same country. And you think about these Irish guys and ladies, and they're, as you say, other side of the world, they've got to really know themselves. Obviously that everyone goes through a journey, but yeah, you've really got to have some thick skin, and it's wonderful, isn't it, to see that when it comes to.
And interesting on that one, Noddy, you know, talk about being homesickness. I pulled that card many a time when I was coming out of contract. You know,
As a bit of
the footy manager going, look, all of a sudden, 2 months to go, I'm feeling homesick, boys. I think I'm going to go home. You know, can you put another 0 on that contract?
That's called negotiating like a boss. That's awesome. All right, next question, mate. This is stock standard one. Who is the best Swans player you've ever played with, and who's the best non-Swans player you've ever played against?
Oof. Geez, there's a few. You know, I've got asked this a few times. My early days was probably Kell, you know, and Paul Kelly. And he was incredible to me as a young bloke coming off on the other side of the world. Now, he was in the latter part of his career at that stage. I arrived out in November 99, and Kell had only a couple of years left. But his influence he had on me was enormous, the way he wrapped his shoulders around me. And I started to understand the ability of what he could do on the field. And I'd have to say Goodsy. I just, you know, Goodsy's ability to you know, to fix it, to be composed, to competitive, to get the most out of himself, to drive the group, to improve as a leader, as a person, you know, and that's only on field, you know, the stuff that he's doing obviously off field. But as far as the playing, and I think sometimes people will almost forget about that because of the influence he's having on field, which is huge and which will be a lot bigger than ever his playing career. But you also got to remember how good he was as a footballer on the field.
Yeah.
And
sorry. You go, mate.
Yeah. I played against a few. Probably Benny Cousins was probably the toughest opponent I played on. I played him quite a bit, obviously, through those battles, and really, really sad, obviously, what's happened to Ben. But his ability to walk up and down the ground, his smarts was incredible, with some great rivalries, playing against each other in that era and that time, And there's a good story. Myself in 2005 grand final, and Ben Cousins it was very limited rotations back then, and Ben would come from midfield to half forward, and it was either myself or Craig Bolton would take him. But halfway through the third quarter, I was absolutely cooked. And we'd kicked the goal, and Craig Bolton was cooked. And we're both walking back from the centre square, and I've turned around and I said, "Oh no, he's coming." And then Craig Bolton goes to me, "I'm not taking him." I said, "I'm not taking him. I'm not taking him." So where we are in front of 100,000 people, grand final, both arguing about who was going to pick up Ben Cousins.
Far out, man.
Who ended up taking him?
I was the one that picked him up. I took one for the team.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Wow.
That's classic.
Just
I
on that
certainly
piece-
wouldn't want to. Yeah, he was a great player. He really was. Yeah.
Just when you were touching there on the on and off stuff with Goodsy, AFL Hall of Fame just kicked off just recently, right? And Goodsy declined the membership. Do you have a say in that, or do you have a particular strong view on how that's all gone down?
Adam will do it when he's ready. If he's ready, there's still a lot of hurt with Adam, and I don't like the line when people say he's lost to the game. He still goes to Swans functions. We still see him at games, and he still loves the Swans. I don't like people saying he's been lost to the game. He loves the Sydney Swans Football Club, and he loves the Bloods, and he loves everything he's done for and the mateships that we've got and he's got, So that kind of a throwaway line, which I don't like. But as far as the AFL, I think there's a lot of people involved in the game still that he's not quite ready to move on. He's expecting his second child soon, so maybe at some point down the line he'll be thinking maybe I will do it. But he's having a bigger impact than whatever the AFL could offer him, and he almost doesn't need the AFL now, does he? Really?
I have a shout out. One of the boys from the groups that we go to the Swans with, he actually plays against Goodsy every now and then in the local soccer league, and he just says that Goodsy just rips it up. He just kills it. We're always like, it'd be interesting to see how he goes on the soccer field, because
he's a freak. I play 7-a-side with Adam, and he's trying to push me to play at 11-a-side, but he's gone doing pre-seasons and hour and 2 hours of training. We've done all that. Like, I play 7-a-side, bit of fun, but yeah, he's still got it. It
just shows you his character, doesn't it? Yeah, that's unreal. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, okay. Riles Macca, who has an amazing YouTube channel, by the way, and we'll make sure we link that. He asks, were you planning to do the jig when you got the premiership medal, or was it a spur of the moment thing?
Oh, good question. I hadn't thought about it. I knew obviously my parents were there, and I had thought somewhere during the day, whether it was in the morning or what, that I'd grab an Irish flag if I could, but I didn't plan anyone bringing an Irish flag or anything like that. And the day was so long back then; it was so different because the coverage started at 9 a.m. and they go through everything from, goal of the year, mark of the year. Oh, actually, that's right. I was in the top 3 for goal of the year, and I'm sitting in my hotel room, and the coverage was going back to my family in Ireland. So my grandmother and my aunts and a couple other friends were in a pub in Ireland, and it was crossing on them in my hotel room, like just loving it, sitting back. And I'm texting the boys going, "Boys, I have a chance to win the car here. Come on." Juddy pipped me, but with flag, so yeah. It wasn't a bad day, but
good trade-off.
Yeah, good trade-off. Going back to the question, no, I didn't, and it was actually Nick Fosdyke had said to me, "You got to do something, man." As a couple of minutes, was he on the way down? I think he was on the way down, and then I hadn't really thought about it, tell you through it, and then I just went, "Oh well, I'll just do a jig," and just did a jig. So
bit of muscle memory kicked in there, mate.
Oh, it's a shocking piece, but yeah.
On Fozzie, we've got a bit of an inside track. Nick Smith mentioned that he tried to give himself his own nickname of Moose. Did you
It's very good. It was for years, and it's right. He tried to nickname himself Moose, and it's worked. It's worked. We did call him Moose, but it was a lot of reluctancy from us for a long time to not call him Moose. He got
I love it.
That's classic. I love that. We'll probably have to mention that every well, hopefully maybe we can get Moose on one time to hear his version of events, but that's unreal. All right, here's another stock standard one for you, Tyke. What's your greatest memory as a Swan?
Yeah, it's tough. Well, the flag obviously is a huge one. You know, I just then my debut, because everything that I'd gone through just to play the game, and there's not one. There's plenty of memories. You know, that stick out, and it's hard. Like it's funny the way your brain works. You know, everyone gets age. I'm drinking too much beer, killing too many brain cells, but. You generally remember the good times, and you just want to park those. For some reason, I can barely remember the 2006 grand final. The 2005 granny, I can almost remember it, step by step. It's obviously been shown a lot more too, and I watch it more. But whereas 2006, like I just, you those memories just for some reason, and it's probably the way your body and your brain works to try and protect yourself from those bad memories. But there's some tough times, some very, very difficult times as a player, and went through some tough times as a club also. But it's tough. It probably is the flag. It's to do something so special for so many people, and for someone to come from the other side of the world. Initially, I didn't know the impact of the Bloods and South Melbourne and the impact that winning a flag would have. I know that was my first couple of years. And then once I started to understand the club and history of the club, and we drew on South Melbourne and what it meant to be a Swans footballer and the history of the club. And I love my history. And it certainly struck a chord in my heart around the passion and the troubles that people went through just to form the football club and the jersey that I was wearing, and that was pretty special to me. The fact that you understood how important it was to people there. Hopefully, get to see us win a flag before they pass away, and getting some of those emails and messages after winning it was pretty special.
Well, it was, I will never forget it. I'm sure you're the same, Chris. Like it really was. And it's incredible that we've won another flag since then, and lost a couple of close ones. But just that 05, it's
huge.
Huge
hard
memory.
to describe, isn't it? Like,
I'm lost for words.
A lot of people who remember where they were, what they were doing, or those moments certainly from a Swans perspective where you were. And we often joke, and the 2005 crew, we catch up with some of the boys from 2012 and say, "Boys, look, come on, we took you to the first dance. We were the
trendsetters.
We were the trendsetters, but it was a very special moment. And you're young, and I do remember Ruzi at the time saying, just relax, boys, enjoy it and take it in your stride. And we didn't.
Well, good advice, and sometimes you don't always follow good advice. But it was fantastic. And I think we might have another question on that moment later on. So we'll probably come back to that one. But over to you, Chriso, again. One more before we get into the weekly four.
Yeah, one last quick one. Adrian from Coogee via Kerry asks, what's to go with the accent?
I do get asked that a lot, but people say things to me. I don't know if for some reason I seem to flip in and out of Irish, Australian, or and I don't do it on purpose, but it's just I don't know. I can't explain accents, and I just don't know.
I think it's bloody cool, mate. And the background here to the listeners is Adrian is one of the mates that we knew from our Swans group. And then Chris, you tell the story, because it's actually the connection through you, isn't it?
Yeah. So my good mate Adrian is from Kerry himself, same part of the world where Ty's from. So he got us in touch with him. So he's for a long time made comment, and he wanted it to be addressed and strung up today. So I'm glad I got the chance to do that now.
This is a good old stitch up, isn't it? So I promise you, mate, we didn't get you on just to put you in the firing line of your accent. I happen to love the intricacies of your accent. So cheers, Adrian.
Question, Adrian. Honestly, come on.
I lived with him for ages, mate, and I didn't understand most of the time.
What a good bloke. All right, well, that's the end of the pre-game questions, as it were, and awesome insight there, Tyke. Thank you so much for answering those, mate. We're going to crack on into the regular format now, where you'll both have 45 seconds to answer the questions that I ask. And I will be giving you a warning bell with 5 seconds to go that sounds like this. Sound of a beer can opening. So, and what we'll do is we'll take it in turns, and I'll say your turn. So with question one, we'll kick off with Tiger, and then we'll go over to Chris. So without further ado, question one. So we've made it to the finals again after 2 years out. What are our chances against the Giants this weekend and for the flag in general? Go.
Enormous. I think for the first time in a long, long time, you can't pick who's going to win the premiership. There's no Richmond, there's no Geelong, Hawthorn at their best. It's wide open, and look, we missed out on the 4 by percentage. And I think the group is at a really good. They've got a really good balance in there with youth and senior players, and I'm very confident that we'll win this weekend. And you'd be very, very nervous playing the Swans as far as finals are concerned, the style of play that we play, but also the fact that this group there's players there that have won flags, and we've got the best player in the country still.
Buddy.
But honestly, you tell me this bloke looks ripped. Like after a week off, looks primed. I'd almost try it out that he'll reach the 1,000 next week, not this week, but the week after. So. Yeah. You imagine trying to get to wherever that game's going to be. We might try and get into Tassie if we could.
Yeah, that's been on our minds for a while, whether or not it's going to happen. And can we get down there? But sorry, this is not my time to talk. I've just realised. All right, sorry. I'll go back to the format. Over to you, Chriso, for 45 seconds.
Yeah. So this it's hard for the Swans to beat a Smoky. It hurts to have such high hopes because you're trying to keep them kind of condensed, right? Kind of keep them down a little bit. You're excited, but you want the team to do the best they can. Like we've got all of these veterans that are just hitting peaks, right? And they're just priming perfectly. And you've got loads of young talent that have been the lifeblood of the team throughout this whole year. And we look back in the season and, beating, Brisbane, the Cats, Richmond. And we're all sitting around going, I think I'm starting to believe, It's like, what's going on? I was expecting to be making top 10 at best, and we ended up fighting for top 4. So massive year for us. So against the Giants, they love to play physical. I hope we're ready for it. Mummy's going to be throwing his body at every single person for probably the very last time of his career. So that'll be a scary sight to see. Let's get through this week. I've got the Swans winning. I think I want them to go for all the way for sure. Yeah, it's
a huge year. Like you jump from 17th to 6th. It's an enormous year, and the fact that we're 4 games better in our win-loss than the Giants. The issue is they've really good cattle back and some good midfielders in form. And Millsy, Millsy out has been super for us, and Josh is a bit injured. So, but I still think we got too much from.
Yeah, and we've got the Chad back in. I believe I have to double check teams, but I think that was the case. Yeah. I picked the Swannies as well, guys, and it's probably going to be tough. It's either going to go 2 ways. We're going to blow them away, or it's going to be tight and they might pip us. But I picked the Swans. I'm one of those nervous Swans fans, Tigers, if you hadn't realised. But
we both are, I think.
I think every Swans fan's nervous.
You're sorry, Chris. We haven't done fans, a lot of justice either. There's so many close games. We don't seem to be this year. Although this year we've done it a few times where we've blown teams away, but it's not a tradition of ours, is it?
No, it's keeping the fans on the edge of the seat and making you earn it, and that's what makes it feel so much better when you do get over the line. But we love the Bloods nevertheless. Anyway, all right. Question 2, and we're going to go with Chris first, and then over to Tyke. So question 2 is: with all the messing around with coaches lately, in your mind, has the role of coach changed in the modern day? Go for it, Chris.
Yeah, look, I don't know. It's kind of, I think the game in itself has changed, obviously, quite a lot, even in the last 10 years. And Ty probably have much better insight than some pleb who's just talking on a Zoom chat. But I kind of feel that the coaches are not necessarily these days just guys who are going to yell at you and trying to get you to move in a particular structure or whatnot. They're also leaders of men. They're there to inspire you, to kind of help you grow, through your life and as a team together. And especially these days with COVID and what they've had to go through the last 2 years, total testament to the whole leadership group, to the way the horse has gone about it, and to all the coaches and all the assistants and all of the staff that have had to go through with all of them, running around, jumping on flights and doing all that. So it's particularly in the last 2 years, the role of a coach is huge. And I think we're very, very lucky to have Horse driving that ship. Other teams, not so much. But I think we start looking at boards next and start seeing the effect of boards as we start looking at Carlton and Collingwood to make sure they need to start sorting themselves out first.
I'll give you a second one there.
That's
Over to you, Tyke.
Yeah, it's certainly changed. It's changed dramatically. And Ruzi was part of that, I think, as part of that new generation of a coach coming through, where he was, a bit more about relationship building and empathy towards the players and what they're going through, compared to the old school motivational, the dictator telling you what way you're going to play, and that's the way it is. Coaches today are still trying to get the most out of the players. That's your job at the end of the day, is an individual comes to your football club, you're trying to get the most out of him to play as good as he can for your football club within the parameters of the team. And that's what your head coach is trying to do. And then he's trying to collectively get them all to go into one direction. And that's what good coaches do. And that's what Horse has done numerous times. And that's what he's done again and the challenge for Horse was obviously that we the transition after the success that he had in 19, and then to have the hunger as a coach that's been at the club for such a long time to actually go, right, I'm going to bring this group back up, and it's a young group, and I'm going to have to go through the whole cycle again. That's very tough to do as a coach, and he had the ability to do that. The decision was there for him to go to North Melbourne, and he could have easily taken it. It probably would have been the easier decision for him, as far as, well, I don't have to stick around with the same messaging, same people generally. It's the role of state the Swans was a lot harder for him to actually stay and take, and he's done a good job at doing that. And it's changed, because what, young men have changed, society's changed. We challenge a lot more. The next generation want answers, and they challenge, and obviously we see the social media influence that's happening on. All those things have changed, but one thing Horse is, he's very much about the player and about the building relationships and trying to get the most out of his players. And he's done a super job. And I think you're right, Chris. I think the board has got a huge impact. The shifting of the Swans was also part of what happened with Ruzi and the board being on the same page, and it's continued on, and Andrew Ireland and obviously, Charlie Gardner and Tom at the helm with Andrew. It's important that they're all on the same page, and there's clarity around their role. The board's role is to try and get as much money as it can into the football club to make it sustainable. It's not like Carlton and Collingwood telling the coaches or telling the recruitment team who to recruit. Your job is, that's your job. You hire a coach, his job is to do that. And that's what clarity is about. You don't want the head coach going up telling the chairman or the CEO going, well, why don't you try this to make some money? Or why don't you try that? You don't see that happening, So that's what we're very strong in the position that we are, both financially and as a supporter base, but also the decision by the club, I feel, where the club goes, anything we make as a football club goes straight back into the football spend. So we don't make a whole lot of money as a club, but it makes and gives the club the best opportunity to be successful as often as possible. And a lot of clubs don't do that. And then that's a true testament to the board and to the club. They're going, we're going to invest straight back into the football program and trying to get the best players and to get the most out of them.
I mean, it's a tough market, isn't it, Sydney? And so they've formed this approach through the, just survival. Earlier, just really quickly off air, I was having a yarn with you, Tyke, and I put you on the spot and said, Horse versus Clarko, who's the better coach, who's the better person? And we sort of got cut off because Chris was coming back in from his tech issue. But would you mind sharing your thoughts there, just very quickly, just as a carry on?
It irks me a bit sometimes, you talk about, I suppose, the Hawthorns and how we as a football club, I think if we had those premierships in 14 and 16 and we didn't get over the line, we'd be looked at very differently. The fact that we've played in a lot of finals and we've played for such a long time, Horse's ability, like I've just talked about, to actually reinvigorate himself and and adapt as a coach to the style of the game, because he's been around for quite a while as a coach, assistant coach and head coach, So that's the challenge that Horse has met, and that's what kind of, I would say, it pisses me off as a Swans fan, as a Swans person, that we're not held in that regard as same as Hawthorn and the Richmonds and the like, because we were close, and we really should have won that game against the Dogs with some, let's just say, decisions that went against us.
Mate, you know, I was complaining about that as well off air. Every other day I complain about that. Honestly, it's a real bugbear of mine, and it's hard for me to let it go. But you were saying that you commentated that game. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. It was very hard to do.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I was doing it at the time, and it was like, I was pulling my hair out. I didn't have a lot, but it was very frustrating to watch. And the hardest part of that year was just the consistency of the team, that we had such a good year. Now having said all that, that's where we could pinch a flag from 6 this year, because you look at it and you look at it positively, and that's certainly what I do. But it's not that different to the Dogs. We're in good form, and they played a good 6 weeks of football, really, and they got over the line. But really, we were the best team in the comp that year by a long shot.
Yeah. So maybe we can come from the clouds and ruin Melbourne's party here with their drought-breaking attempt.
I don't think we're coming from the clouds. We've had 15 wins.
It's true. That's true.
We're out of the 4, and we've beaten the top teams. Our record. We've played 9 of the top 8 teams, and we're 6-3.
Yeah.
We don't care. We can beat. And that's what the boys will be saying all week, and that's what Horse will be saying, and that's what they'll be saying, boys, we're ready. Don't wait. You never know when you're going to get an opportunity to win a flag. And if you're healthy, like we are healthy, obviously disappointed with Millsy, but we're very as a club, and things should be trending that way.
Yeah. Second best scoring team, I think 4th best defensive team. Yeah. We're right in the mix. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall, but like hearing some of that from you, you'd imagine that they're the conversations going down, and it makes you feel a bit more confident next time. All right, let's head over to question 3, and we'll go with Tyke first, then over to Chris. Question 3 is, which young Swan deserves to win the Rising Star this year, if any, and which young Swan is most likely to make 300 games? Go.
Great question. Justin McInerney's been super on the wing, and reminds me a bit of myself, actually, the way he plays. I was a lot better kick, I must say, but and a lot quicker, and took a few more risks. Justin's been very good, but probably Errol Goulding. He's 18 years of age. The kid's a baby, and a lot of people are talking about he mightn't be drafted. You're kidding me, because of his size. He's brain, and it's hard for people now to actually go and watch the footy. But go and watch this kid work. It's Dan Hennebury like, it's Ryan O'Keefe like, go back in years. His ability to work hard, but he's so smart. And Errol Goulding's the one for me that a chance of winning the Rising Star. As far as 200, I love the way Chad Warner goes about it. He reminds me small bit of Jude Bolton, and he's attacking the ball. Whether he's going to be around that long to play because of the style of football that he plays is another question. But there's a few there, and I wouldn't be surprised. You've got a backbone of a team now. Braden Campbell, Errol, Justin McInerney, and then like Will Harewood's not an old man. Tommy McCartan's played games and he's 21. So there's a bond of a team there that's going to be around for a long, long time, and those boys will tap 200 no problem. And if you've got a group coming together, you got a group of 8 players there that can come together on 200, watch out, because that's what really successful clubs are built on, is that, and that's not including Oliver Florent and those types. You'd like to try and get a young ruckman to come and develop in time with and be able to come with them, because we've seen the impact Hickey's had on the group. It's been enormous, and we've been crying out for a few years now, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right. It's very exciting for fans to watch from the sidelines. Over to you, Chriso.
Okay, so again, Juzzy is incredible. He's been playing so well. I don't know. Do you remember, Nick? I've been talking about Juzzy since last year, at the end of last year. So I've been making a lot of noise about him for some time. But Campbell. Watching Campbell is like, he hasn't played too often, right? But when he plays, you're like, you can see how much raw talent this guy has. And it's not just raw; it's quite polished. But he's just so good. He makes good decisions. He's really good on the ball, and he's strong as hell, right? And he seems like he's pretty bit of a competitor. Gordon is just on a different level, isn't he? Like the other week, there's footage of him just ripping into Tom Papley, telling him what to do next time. So he's just going like, I need you over here. It's just, you're talking to the guy who won He was up there with the Coleman last year, talking to the guy who kicked the most goals last year for the Swans, and he's going to make All Australian. Incredible stuff. So he's a guy who might go on and just lead a club for a long, long, long time. So him for Rising Star and him for 300 games.
The interesting one you're right, Chris. The interesting with Braden compared to Errol. Braden will probably have a better highlights package when he's finished. But I think Errol's ability to work hard and smarts, that's probably the difference. You're right. You look at Braden and go, wow. He's got that wow factor about the way he plays, and he's highly competitive. I just remember a story there, if I may. Noddy.
Go for it. Go, please.
Jazzy, when he first came to the club, I was obviously coaching there, and we had a practice game, and it was the first bracky game intra-club, and it was around late January, and he's on the wing, and he absolutely torches it, like he kills it. And we're all going, who is this kid? What? Like, unbelievable. He's kicked 4 on the wing, and he's just dominated. And then we slowly introduced the structure into the game, and he just falls apart. It's like, we've and we're going as coaches, we've just killed this kid. What have we done?
You've broken his natural talent.
We've broken his But that often happens. You actually have to do that so they can fit into the system, and then they come out of it like he has. And that's exactly what it is. But at the time, it was quite funny. We were all going, what have we done to him? Do you remember that game in the preseason when he was on, what have we done to this kid?
Well, I mean, whatever you've done, it's working out, because his evolution this year, last year, it was just exciting, right? And I think he had a Rising Star nom last year as well. But this year, he's actually become one of the genuinely reliable players in our team, and especially that roll-off halfback. His kick now is I feel very safe when he's kicking. Not to mention, when he runs, he's as dangerous as Blakey coming through. But yeah, for me, I think if you look at the pure numbers, as the AFL industry likes to do, I think he's averaging about near 20 disposals a game as effectively a second-year player. I think that he should get the nod really over the likes of Jackson, Georgiades, not to mention our Errol, Campbell, and the Chad. I think, Campbell and Warner, they've just been a bit out on injuries, but it's very exciting times for Swans fans. And I think, did you have any hand in? So when you were coaching, you would have had those guys, or maybe not Errol and Braden, but the other guys.
Yeah, well, Errol and Braden I knew well. I knew Errol
in the academy.
Well, actually, very well. He's a good friend of ours. A friend of a lot of the boys, the ex-Swans boys. He had a restaurant in Double Bay, and when Goodsy won his first Brownlow, we were out of control because we just we'd lost the final, and we were on a bit of a mission. Bit of a mission, and we ended up at his place, and we were jumping into the harbour at Circular at Darling Harbour.
So whose place was that? Sorry, I think I missed whose was it?
Errol Goulding's old man.
Oh, nice. All right. The Goulden residents.
As young kids, you see them all the time, and having been through the underage system myself, I knew them because I'd seen them a lot earlier than most people at the club, But you're right. You can see, you could see it from a while, and a lot of that's back to Kinnear and his ability to draft. His recruiting's been sensational again.
Yeah, that's it. We talk about Horse having been so successful over 13 years, and Beatson's been a big part of that over the journey, and just the players he's brought in. It's quite incredible when you put it down on paper and reflect. But it's unreal. Yeah, very exciting times. Okay, here's the question that I was alluding to earlier. So question 4. We'll start with Chris and then finish with Tig. What was going through your mind when Leo Barry went up for that mark? Do you watch the replay often?
Go. Well, that question is mostly for Ty, so because I wasn't there, jumping on anyone's back. But it was a massive moment. I was actually in my mate's upstairs, my mate's place, Smithy, with my girlfriend at the time, watching the game, going bananas. Saw the mark, heard the whistle, or the horn rather, and everyone started erupting. And I'm going absolutely bananas inside this living room, and my girlfriend and my mate are on the couch going, "What's the go?" And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm losing it. and I'm like, "Let's go out." And they're like, "We don't where we're going to go." And at that point, it hit me that I need to probably go and get new friends and I need to get a new girlfriend, because that was not the appropriate answer at all for the moment. So yeah, I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing, what I was feeling. Huge. And I think, Ty, you probably know, but in a lot of Swans fan, it hits hard when you remember it. Do I watch it often? Yeah, 5 times every single final it comes up, and about 40 times every grand final I watched again. So yeah, all about it.
Awesome. Over to you, Tiger. How about you, mate?
I can't remember where I was.
I love that.
You obviously see it a lot, replayed or stills or pictures of it. But it's a pretty special moment, obviously, in the club's history. But they're taking to the moment itself, what I was going through at times. A ball that came in over the top of the pack. I was running back towards goal with Matt Bosky, and I beat him back towards goal, and I rushed behind it. And I knew there wasn't a whole lot left. Now, I didn't know there was. I knew it was less than a minute. Wasn't too sure. We were pretty well drilled. I got to the pocket left, threw up a bit of time, but I kicked to Leo. Leo could have hit Adam. Goodsy coming at him, but he decided he didn't have the kahunas to do it, so he decided to take the easy long, and Coxie walks down Jolly under the ball, and he plays on his left. But at the time, if you remember, Ashley Stampy just won market here, and I was playing on Ashley that last few minutes. And I saw him once I took the kick in, and once I saw the ball going long and a turnover. And my mind, honest to God, I can remember it as if it was today. This bloke is not winning the grand final. He can mark the ball on hard, and I'm going to pin him to the ground, basically. And I took my eye off the flight of the ball because I was actually looking for him because I didn't want him to launch the ball. And if you look at it still, here for it, I've actually wrapped my arms around him, stopped him from jumping almost. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what had happened. I couldn't see a thing. I get up and I'm like, what's going on? There was a massive back of my head. Leo's on the ground with the ball and the siren goes, and I've got good little I didn't mark it. I didn't know what had happened. We'd won the game, lost, like what had happened. The turn Leo with the ball and he's on the ground, and the election just something it's hard to kind of put it into words, that the emotion I felt, but every now and then I do think about it, and it's like a nice wine. You take a swig of it and you remember it, and take back such a really good feeling and good emotion. Very, very special to me personally, obviously.
Awesome. So what you're saying is that there should have been a penalty for holding the man, for probably blocking at some point there. Yeah. Okay.
10 seconds to go in a grand final. It's a free kick. Oh, how I'd be after it. Oh.
It'd be a tough call to make, and maybe that umpire wouldn't have made it home. But no, that's unreal. Wowzers! What a great memory of that moment. It's one Swans fans will never forget. And thank you for sharing with us your very intimate experience there, and also thank you for watching Sampi so closely. Yeah, because that mark of the year was just spectacular. If it's the one I'm thinking of, where he just basically jumped 4 meters into the air. Have I got that player right? Is that right, Tyke? Yeah.
West Coast against Melbourne.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was that one. What a cracker! Absolute specky.
Same side of where he was going to take the mark against where Leo took the mark. It was almost in that same spot where he took his mark here.
No. And so you're conscious of that, thinking, not again, not again.
Not to the fact that I'd watched that morning and mark it in goal.
Of course. Yeah.
I was going to forget it.
Oh, wow. It pays to do your homework like that, doesn't it? Oh, well, that's fantastic. No, it was fantastic. And yeah, we were just over the moon then. We're still over the moon. But all right, well, that's it for today. Massive thanks to our special guest, 2005 Premiership player, Ty Kennelly. Thank you so much, mate.
And a big shout out to Wendy, Brett, Riles, Macca, Tyler, Adrian for all your questions. Keep them coming. Make sure you check us out on social media and on the Instagram. I'm hilarious. It's good fun to be on there.
And remember, if you enjoyed this but find yourself craving even more Swannies content, make sure to check out A Bevy of Bloods, in which another mate, Steve-O, and I have a long-form discussion where we review the Swans' last game, preview the Swans' next game, and have a bit of a chat about footy too. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on our socials at A Bevy of Bloods.
And lastly, Ty, thank you so much for joining us. You're a champion of the codes. And do you mind sending us off with an up the bloods?
Yeah, look, good on you guys. Keep publicising and pumping the club up. It's great, man. It's people like yourselves, doing the work that you do. We wouldn't have supporters out there that follow us and cheer on, and through the tough times that the club has had. Up the blood.
Up the bloods. Can you, Swannies?